there were a lot of people coming in and making problems after a long gap. And we can see it live. My name is Defiant, and I am part of the human resources team at 24/7. These kind of events, it gives me a lot of pleasure to invite all of you who have come from respective organizations to be a part of this unique event at 24/7.ai. So, first up, may I please invite our esteemed panel members to come forward and light a lamp. I request our volunteers to kindly help.
Hi, Anita. I understand you've joined in. If you also can turn on your video, you can see everyone live. Thank you very much. We are just having the lighting the lamp ceremony right there on my right. I'm trying to explain everything that's happening live. Thanks for joining in, Berlin. I'm just going to come to you. So we're having all the panel members lighting the auspicious lamp before the beginning of this wonderful event.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we look all set. Okay, so to begin the proceedings and welcome you all, it's a humble privilege to welcome Ms. Nina Nair, Senior Vice President, HRD for India and Americas, to please come forward and address.
Good morning. I don't think I can, actually quite an emotional moment because we've been waiting for this for a very long time. I think we've been having multiple conversations about this event for quite some time, for a couple of years now. And to finally see it coming, in play and fructifying really is very, very satisfying. So welcome everybody to 24/7.ai and also, of course, to the Women Empowerment Principles Action Dialogue Series, the first of which we will have today. On behalf of P.V. Kannan, who is our CEO, Shanmugam Nagarajan, we lovingly call him Nags, and Animesh Jain, who's our CDO, I'm Nina Nair. I head HRD for India and the Americas for 24/7.ai. I would like to welcome every one of you to 24/7.ai. It is indeed a privilege, quite a cliched term, but I truly mean it from the bottom of my heart. In all these years, I've been at 24/7 for 16 years. In all these years, it has been at times a struggle to really work on gender diversity. It's been a journey. It's been a debate. It's been an ask. It has been a fight. Multiple things, multiple emotions that we've gone through in the last 22 years of our existence for us to come to this stage today. And I feel that we are at that part of our journey today where we truly are beginning to understand that gender diversity is not just about numbers, is not just about bringing or tracking the number of women we have in the organization, but how inclusive they feel, how included they feel, and what it is that they want from the organization, what they are willing to give the organization, and how do they want to be seen. And I think that at this point of time, I feel that we're truly at that stage when our women are beginning to feel included, both in the conversation that deals with their own growth, their progress, but also the success of the organization. They have an equal hold on the organization, an equal ownership, and also an equal understanding of the results that are expected of the organization, and they're part of everything that comes because of that success. One of the things that, again, it has been a journey, but today I do feel that our men at 24/7 are our cheerleaders. And that in itself is something that I'm able to say today with great pride. We fight, we argue, we war, we box each other physically and otherwise. But at the same time, I don't think we have better cheerleaders because they always stand by us. And I think one of the most important things that has happened is that women in the organization are not treated as the weaker sex or the weaker gender. They're treated as professionals, as people who can give as good as they get. They're people who have opportunities for fair practice, people who have opportunities for equal compensation irrespective of what level they stand at. And that is what I believe, as we stand here today, is one of our greatest successes. So, when we got this award for the United Nations WEPs program, we truly felt that we've just begun, we just started that journey of becoming better and better there. I was reading, I think this was about 10 years ago, I was reading a book which described what Shakti actually meant. And very interestingly, when we think of Shakti, we think of it more in mythological terms. We think of it in terms of Devi, and we think of it in terms of various divine powers. But actually, the meaning of Devi, of Shakti, meant immense courage, meant that you were able to have the courage of conviction, that Shakti brought forth vulnerability, that it was about accepting one's vulnerabilities, having the courage of conviction, having the strength to take on any obstacles and succeed, or at least try and succeed. And that is the day when together we decided that we would name our Women Empowerment Program at 24/7 Shakti. And Shakti has 3 pillars, of course. The first pillar is that of bringing on board people, right? We have to bring into the organization more women. And when I talk about diversity, it's not just about women, but today we are celebrating women. So I'm going to talk only from that perspective. So it was our attempt to bring in more women. We had a pretty sad diversity percentage 16 years ago. Today, we are very happy to see what it is and increasing. But like I said, it was not just numbers. The second is, how do we make sure that we retain the woman when she comes in? Now, not just as a human being and as a person who till now did not have that professional identity, perhaps, or had one in another organization. But how does she truly become a 24/7 knight? And that is the second pillar. How do we retain? And our program that we run for engagement is called Happy Hearts. And therefore we say that how do we make sure that the woman coming into the organization is truly a happy heart, and that she's happy to come in because she feels needed, she feels included, she feels wanted, and she feels that she wants to give back to the organization as best as she can, because that means that she grows and the organization grows. And the third pillar, of course, is her growth and development. How do we make sure that she grows, she develops, that she has the opportunities available and laid out for her so that she can learn, she can study, she can grow, and she can become anything that she wants in the organization. 85% of our employees grow into leadership roles internally. They grow into internal roles, and you'll find that unfortunately the traffic has been playing truant today. So many people have not yet come in, but we have so many women leaders who have grown from the ranks, just as we have so many of our male counterparts who have grown from the ranks. And together, they started at a certain point and have grown together, which is wonderful to see, because there has been complete camaraderie and and immense competition, by the way, to make sure that each one of them has got the position that they deserve. So those are the three pillars of Shakti: to bring on board, to make sure that we can retain our women employees, and third, of course, to help them grow and develop and become the best that they can be at 24/7. I know that the United Nations Charter is much larger, is much huger. I've been going on and on about 24/7, but this is a small part of a larger charter for women across the globe. And if we at 24/7 can even be a small part of it, and if we can help women not just within our organization, but in Bangalore, in India, or across the globe, then that would be our absolute privilege. And I'm sure every one of you would agree to that as well. So I'll stop now. My 5 minutes are up. Dipayan's looking at me. And I welcome you all again. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Nina. That was, for people who joined in a little late, that was Nina Nair, our Senior Vice President for HRD India and Americas, telling us what Shakti and how is the evolution of Shakti at 24/7, and how all our leaders are committed towards hiring, development, I have to get this right, hiring, retention, and development of our women counterparts. We move ahead, and it is a rare privilege to invite on stage virtually and I'm going to invite Ms. Anita Bhatia. Before that, may I please introduce herself to the entire August gathering. She's the Assistant Secretary General and UN Women's Deputy Executive Director for Resource Management, UN Systems Coordination, Sustainability and Partnerships. Ms. Anita Bhatia serves as the Assistant Secretary General and UN Women's Deputy Executive Director since August 2019. Before joining the UN Women, Ms. Bhatia had a distinguished career at the World Bank Group, serving in various senior leadership and management positions, both at the headquarters and in the field. She brings extensive experience in the area of international development, strategy, resource mobilization, strategic partnerships, and organizational change management. In various positions, she has led teams to deliver significant resources for scaled-up impact, including at the country level, and to craft innovative partnerships to advance development agendas, and has made significant contributions to the evolving discourse of development finance. She has led diverse teams, including as Global Head of Knowledge Management, Head of Business Process Improvement, and Head of Change Management. In addition to Latin America, she has worked in Africa, Europe, Central Asia, South and East Asia. And this afternoon, she joins us from Berlin. Ms. Bhatia holds a BA in History from Calcutta University, an MBA in Political Science from Yale University, and a Juris Doctorate in Law from the Georgetown University. Ladies and gentlemen, please make way for Ms. Bhatia.
Well, good morning from cold and snowy Berlin. It's really a pleasure for me to join you this morning. And I want to start by just kicking off from what Nina just said. I listened with great interest to Nina's description of the journey that 24/7 has been on. And I want to first and foremost thank 24/7 AI for the leadership as well as the efforts of the team led by Animesh Jain in taking the initiative to really help us host the first dialogue of this series. Congratulations to you for all that you have achieved and the role modeling that you are providing to others, not just in your industry, but in other sectors who are looking to improve and who are looking to walk the difficult talk of gender diversity and inclusion. I was really interested to hear what you had to say, Nina, about this is not just a journey for increasing the numbers, but it is also a journey about how people feel when they are truly included. And I fully agree with you that the word Shakti is a very interesting word in capturing different facets and elements of this journey. And as we think about the lessons from your experience, I also want to take a minute to thank the participation of others in today's event, Aspire for Her, Capgemini, HCL Tech, Natwest Group, and Zensar Technologies, because your participation in this dialogue and your belief in the potential of collective action on this difficult and complex agenda is what is going to achieve results. This is not a path that we walk alone. I want to say a few words about the women's empowerment principles, because this coming together to lead an intervention that as a group will allow greater empowerment of women and acceleration of economic opportunity for them is exactly the kind of business sector action that we want to see, not just in India, but all over the globe. And the reason I say this is because, we at the UN system have had this set of 7 principles that was developed by UN Women and the UN Global Compact for almost a decade now. And this set of principles was developed to guide businesses on how do you go about this difficult job of empowering and including women in the workplace, in the marketplace, and in your communities and in your ecosystem more broadly. And I think what we have learned over the last decade, which is really instructive for those who are just beginning to walk this journey, is that it takes a number of elements to actually have success. The first is, as demonstrated by the case we just heard, is leadership commitment from the top. This has to be something where leadership walks the talk, really believes in, and most importantly, has KPIs around, monitors, and holds people accountable for delivery of certain targets, as well as for the very important and more subtle cultural changes that take place when you become a truly diverse and inclusive workforce. And when we think of what has happened to women in the last few years, because of the pandemic, we just realized the enormity of the gap has just grown, because women were on a path to being more integrated, to being more included, to being more successful before the pandemic hit. But the pandemic had a terrible impact on women's labor force participation in many parts of the world. And in India, where female labor force participation continues to be a conundrum and continues to be a big challenge, we know that just government public policy by itself is not going to make the difference. It really is the corporate sector, which is the largest provider of jobs in the world, that is going to be able to make a real difference in women's labor force participation. which is why the area of discussion that is being prioritized today on enabling women to return to the workforce is so significant. I'm really looking forward to hearing about what very practical steps are being taken to make sure that women are not just hired, but are retained and developed. And, one thing I do want to mention that UN Women has been working on for some time now with a number of countries around the world is the whole issue of the care burden, because women bear a disproportionate burden of care. We saw during the pandemic that the burden of homework, of schooling for children who were stuck at home, really fell on women. And then the elder care burden often falls on women, and women are expected to take on these care burdens. And of course, this is work. It's not employment, but it is still work. And it is uncompensated work. So this issue of the Global Care Alliance is a really important issue, which frankly, we have always known about, but it has not been named as such, and it has not really been a key focus of either public policy on the part of governments sufficiently outside of the Nordic countries, and it has certainly not been as important an issue for corporates as it could have been. It is only now, because of the impacts of the pandemic and the difficulties that many employers in many parts of the world are having in bringing women back into the labor force, bringing them back into the corporate sector, that countries and companies are beginning to think about what does it mean to really acknowledge the care burden that most women have. And we know that globally, women perform 77% almost of the total hours of unpaid care work, which is 3 times the care burden borne by men. And in India, the burden is 9.8 times the burden for women than for men. So, and we know from global reports, such as those issued by ILO, that unpaid care work has now become in many parts of the world the main barrier that prevents women from getting into, remaining, and progressing in the labor force. And part of the reason is that even when companies have policies that give a bigger role to men in the care burden, men don't take advantage of it. So I was recently in the Emirates and had a discussion with Unilever there. And, they were saying that for certain markets that they have these policies in place, but the men don't take advantage of paternity leave. And so, there is a cultural issue that has to be addressed, where the role modeling has to be not just on numbers for women, but on the role modeling that is expected of men. It would be great to see some CEOs take paternity leave when they have children, or paternity leave or care leave to take care of an elderly parent or relative. We are not there yet. We're not there in pretty much any part of the world. And so this is something that we need to aspire to, where we have role modeling by men on alleviating the care burden that exists for both men and women. And in conclusion, let me just say a few words on, where we are in the world today on the Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Goals are a framework that the whole world signed up to. Think about this. It's not very often that you get 193 countries who are the member states of the United Nations to all agree on something in common. But the SDGs are one such framework, and all 193 countries of the United Nations signed up to implement the SDGs. And for India, as India assumes the presidency of the G20, and with the SDGs at the absolute forefront of the government's agenda, we actually have a huge opportunity to underscore the relevance of gender equality, of diversity, of inclusion, of the kinds that you have been discussing, as a contributor and a major lever for inclusive and sustainable development. And here, I cannot stress enough the very important role that is played by corporates such as yourselves, because it is only when business leaders step up to the plate that we have the ability to unlock the tremendous potential that exists in the world to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. We have, ladies and gentlemen, 7,000 companies and CEOs all over the world who have committed to the women's empowerment principles. We have 325 in India alone. And you are part of a very august group that is demonstrating its commitment to advancing gender equality in the workplace, in the marketplace, and in your community. I really do believe that the efforts that have been invested into this action dialogue will go a very long way in accelerating women's leadership and participation in the economy at scale. UN Women in India and globally remains absolutely committed to being at the forefront of convening such platforms, but with allies like you, because we have a shared vision of equal and inclusive economies and communities. I want to thank you all for your commitment. I want to thank you for your engagement, and I want to thank you for your leadership. Congratulations and all the best for your discussions today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bhatia. As you're talking, there were several things that was lingering on my mind in terms of the power of government and public sector to come together towards this wonderful cause. And I can sense there's a huge intent and great commitment from the prestigious United Nations women towards making it happen. I also looked up a few key things that I kind of made a note, so I must reiterate as well. We all of us heard about a few important points of how leadership commitment right at the top is a make or break for organizations and this entire bigger cause. I love that word, care burden, and it is so real. And we've all experienced this with our sisters, partners and mums. And I can see a lot of women around in the entire August gathering, but I am also possibly could have done some things better during the entire COVID is what I can also think through. 7,000 plus signatories is a proud moment. With that, I really want to thank you in -2 weather there at 7 in the morning to come forward and talk to all of us. Thank you very, very much from the bottom of our hearts towards a great cause. With this, I'm going to call one of our partners. I call her a partner because we've been working so closely together. None other than Sohaila Khan, who's from the United Nations Women and is the country program manager for UN Women India, to come forward, and she will lead the entire panel discussions. I'm going to just possibly call her towards next to me and then just invite all the dignitaries and the panelists to begin. So first up, it's this is the moment we've been waiting for. So we'll invite our esteemed panel members to take the dais. First up, it is Anuradha Khosla. She's the Senior Vice President for HCL Technologies. Ray Sim, Head HR, GEC and Geo for Capgemini. Thank you very much. Ruchita Tandon, Head Partnerships and Alliances, Aspire for Her. Sanjana Vaidya, Global Head, Talent Processes and Diversity. Sushmita Malik, Vice President, HR 247.ai. Trees.
Can I please go to the...
Please, it was just comfortable to style along with Sohaila to take this forward. And as we start this beautiful panel discussion, we have put together a wonderful video of the CEOs of the participating organizations. So can we have that live?
Hi, I'm Madhura Dasgupta Sinha, founder and CEO of Aspire for Her. At Aspire for Her, we are adding 1 million women to the workforce by 2025 and 10 million by 2030 by using the power of communities and networks. We motivate women to enter and stay in the workforce. And over the last couple of years, one of the very important communities that we have built are that of the women returning to the workforce. They are women who have worked earlier and are looking for the right opportunity and the right organization to get back into the workforce. We are very excited to be part of this movement with UN Women and the wonderful partner organizations, and we hope that this session will be the beginning of a movement to get many of these returnees back into the workforce and open up doors for them both physically and metaphorically. Thank you.
As a WEP signatory in the country and as the proud winner of the 2021 Women WEP UN Awards, we at Natwest Group have continued to ensure that our efforts on diversity and inclusion continue to improve. We realize that having a diverse workforce, especially focused on gender diversity, is not just something which we do because we are a purpose-led organization, but because it makes eminent business sense. I look forward to working with the other WEP signatory colleagues to make sure that we have an impactful program to increase gender diversity across industries in India.
Zensar is a proud signatory to the UN's Women's Empowerment Principles. We fully support gender equality and strive towards reducing inequalities, aligning with SDGs. Driven by our people-first culture, we aim to achieve 40% gender diversity by 2030. Enliven, an initiative to reintegrate women who have taken a career break, is a significant first step. Other progressive initiatives include gender pay gap fitment, zero discrimination in promotion, performance rating processes, and exclusive learning platforms for women. Further, WEP's Power Gap Assessment tool is helping us identify gender gaps and take decisive action to close them. Zensar continues to uphold WEP best practices of transparent reporting. We are constantly evolving to become more inclusive and build a more gender balanced tomorrow. Thank you.
Conversation on enabling women to return to the workforce who have taken a career break. I would like to just share that, I think we have been having this conversation for over 2 years now with this group and the team. And I must say that not at any single point of time in our countless meetings, I felt that there was a lack of motivation, there was a lack of commitment, or there was a lack of aspiration. And so, like every first, we had great fun moments. And we had challenging times as well. But, no one was really willing to give up. And here we are today. So I'm really, really happy that we have made it. But also I would like to really thank Sushmita and your leadership and for 24/7 AI to come forward and host this first dialogue series. I'm also delighted to share that we have a lot of signatory companies who are now saying us that we would like to host the second round of this dialogue. So I think we are doing something right. So without spending so much time on I think it's the time to go into the conversation straight. Now, on this very interesting topic, which is around enabling and facilitating women who have taken the career break to return back to work. So, Ray, if I may begin from you. So, Capgemini has a program called Captivate that facilitates women to return to the workforce after they have taken the career break. What has been the key motivation behind this program?
Motivation, of course, is the fact that the strong belief that we have in Capgemini that it's great to have a diverse workforce. Okay, that's a plain, simple ideology. And for those of you who would like to understand a bit more about the Captivate program, it's just simply an opportunity or a platform for employees who've taken a career break, to be able to come back to work. And we all know, some of us might have faced it. There are hurdles in that journey, right? It's not necessarily very easy to be able to get back to work. And that's the exact problem statement that we've tried to solve with this program called Captivate. Of course, there are certain guiding principles. You need to have been away for a year, because otherwise then you get through the normal program. Recruitment process. So men or women, but predominantly we know that it's women who've been taking advantage of the program, and rightfully so. If you've been away from work for about a year, but are enthusiastic, are technically qualified, and want to get back into the professional career, that's the kind of target audience that we have. One is, of course, you get in through the portals, job portals. We work very closely with some of our partners here, but also predominantly the employee network referral program. But what's key to the program is that once you apply and you get through, we all know the importance of having to support this team. Okay, that's where we've always seen drop-offs. Okay? We of course know that the pyramid, broader at the bottom, and it of course shrinks at the top. But what is it that we need to do to support these women who take a break and come back? How do we constantly support them? So then there are, of course, training programs, there are mentoring that is being done, or buddying program that is being done. And most importantly, networking opportunities. And all of us, I think, know the importance of it, but it's to be at it on a daily basis, to have a team to make sure that we're doing it. All of us are, staying true to our commitment. That's Captivate is the program. It's been successful. We launched in 2019, but we have very good numbers to be proud about of the program, and that's pretty much a summary of it.
Great, thank you, Ray. And I'm sure that you would have faced certain obstacles in terms of looking at your existing policies and practices to see that how we can facilitate women returning back to work. What kind of obstacles did you face in terms of your own policies and practices, and did you have to tweak them at any point of time?
Most definitely, yes, right? I mean, I'll be lying if I say that it was not, without challenges. There were challenges right from, of course, how do we prepare the recruitment team? How do we prepare ourselves, of course, HR, of course, then business teams, because there is bias, whether we like it or not, it is inherent. So once we realized that, we've made sure that all recruiters, when I say recruiters, not just the talent acquisition team, but also managers, business managers and HR team members who are in the interviewing process, need to necessarily do a program that we call unbiased, unconscious bias program. Okay, so it's a simple program. Of course, for senior leadership, it is a 2.5-hour program that you do necessarily, classroom kind of a program. But now we've made it available on our platform, and it is mandated that everybody who is part of this journey to recruit does this program. And it's very, very important for us. We track it. We make sure that everybody who is a part of the recruitment process necessarily undergo the unconscious bias and inclusive program. I think it's worked very well for us. There are examples of where, unconsciously there is bias that creeps in. What do we need to do? What examples do we have? And that's, most certainly helped. And then the second is to make sure that in the process itself, in the process of recruitment, you have a diverse panel. So that's also very important, because one is, of course, to make sure that, you're checking in, to making sure that there is no bias, of course, in the process. But also when we are hiring women who have taken a break and are coming back, it's important for the panel to be able to see what are the different opportunities that we can provide her, mostly, and of course him. So while the person might have applied for a certain role, if that's not necessarily a fit, another panel member would have figured out, okay, there is another role that we can, get this person to apply for. So the diversity of the panel is also important. So as much as, of course, you take care of the unconscious bias element, it's also important to have a diverse panel. I'm not talking about your gender diversity. I'm talking about experience, different units, etc. So these two things, among the others, of course, has been most important.
Great, thank you, Ray, for that. And I know that we all know now that what it takes to be able to facilitate, the processes and practices to be able to get more women back after they are trying to return from their career breaks. You mentioned, Ray, that there has been certain progress in your program, and this has been under implementation since 2019. Would you let us know that how are you tracking that progress, and what are some of the numbers look like?
Sure. I have this, what should I say? In my mind, there's always this confusion whether, as an HR professional, you need to track everything. There is this thing that goes like what can't be measured, that can't be managed. As an HR professional, there are a lot of things that cannot be, measured. But in this case, you absolutely must track, for several reasons. One is, of course, to see how you are progressing, but also there is a nice, healthy competition within my organization, within Capgemini, as to how each unit is doing when it comes to, Captivate. So if it is indeed working for a unit, why would it not work for another? To just give you an example, I come from a unit which is Capgemini Engineering. It's extremely difficult to get hardcore engineers, mechanical, electrical engineers, and the story is the same everywhere, I know. So when we realized that another unit, doing almost similar work is kind of having great numbers, it really helped. So there was nothing stopping us. So definitely tracking becomes very, very important. And the numbers are fantastic. If I look at 2021, we had about 2,300 employees that we had brought through Captivate into Capgemini. This year, I think up until October, we're about 1,300. We could do better, surely. But these are great numbers. And every time we look at these numbers, so we motivate each other. We say that, okay, I've done better than you. It's healthy competition, but certainly something that we're very, very proud of.
Thank you so much. Ruchita, if I may move on to you, yourself as a returnee after a long career break. And with Aspire for Her, now you are also facilitating and enabling women who are looking for jobs after their career break, right? So could you please share your experience in terms of what external and internal factors facilitated your return to the workforce?
Good morning, everybody. And it's my honor and privilege to be here. Thank you so much, UN WEPs Action Dialogue Series, the first edition. Thank you so much, 24/7 AI, Sushmita, and the entire teams behind it, that today we are sitting here. It's been about 2-3 months that we've been having this conversation, and we are here finally. As Madhura mentioned, I thought I'd start with what Aspire for Her is. I started to be a part of Aspire for Her about 2 years back, a mission and vision of getting 1 million women in the workforce additionally by 2025. It's been 2 years, and every day when I sit in a meeting, I come across women who are leaders in their own journey, having at least about 2 decades of work experience, I'm sure the journey must have been challenging, and I really salute them for where they are today. I have a slightly different journey. I've had a break of more than 2 decades. That's right. And I also feel privileged to say that while I came back into the workforce after 22 years, my son started his work journey at the age of 21. So precisely, we both have come in at the same time. Thank you. And it's been a wonderful journey since I have started, because I never thought this is where I am going to be. I'll give a simple thing. I met Madhura, our founder, on a Zoom platform. A friend of mine introduced me to her, and Madhura told me that meet me on my Zoom in 15 minutes. Being a returnee at home, and with smartphones, your access to emails is very easy. I never had to move to a laptop. It's a little funny, but the only emails I got were either from a website or a Marks and Spencer saying that this is the same, we missed you at the same. So it wasn't of much use. And now coming on Zoom in 15 minutes was like hell broke out. Thanks to COVID, my daughter was at home and she got me onto the Zoom platform. And it is that day and today in these 2 years where I have seen this career change of mine with my own eyes. I started with small volunteering part where I volunteered to be a part of the organization. And moving on, I came across a culture which was more of respect. There was inclusivity. My ideas and thoughts were given a lot of preference. There was no way that I was shown that I am a returnee and probably I do not bring value to the table. And that is where I started with my journey. Yes, technology has really changed, and that was the biggest challenge I found. Google Forms, Google Docs, my God. You name it, and I can tell you, I really curse technology for having gone ahead in these years. And the only thing I could think of is either my young colleagues or my family, because I literally would take the laptop and go in front of them and say that, here it is, help me. But 2 things to it. One is that I knew I needed help. I was willing to accept that I had to do. The second, I challenged myself this time and I said that I am going to do it. And there is nothing that can deter you from that. A strong mindset, hard work, support from others, and perseverance and resilience. That is what I have seen has got me all this way along. And while I've had a break of 22 years, believe me, the work I've done in the last 2 years, I feel I've been working for the last 25.
So firstly, you have cursed technology in presence of all the technology giants here. So
And I'm an engineer, and I started off actually with ideas, where I was doing planning and strategy and development. Marketing used to give projections, you were designing the cellular network. I also had probably the first set of handsets in our hand, because that was the time when mobile and those Nokia handsets were almost the size of your palm. And we used to feel proud to show that. And then, marriage happened, I had kids, my husband kept traveling in continents with his work. Literally, for me, working had become like I ever worked was like a story once upon a time. It never occurred to me that I ever worked in life until it was about COVID when this friend of mine introduced me to Madhura. So that's about it.
no, of course, thank you. And also the motivation that you said was in you, which was also internally was driving you to come forward to this, which is very important. But also, the external factor, having met Madhura. In this case, Madhura, but the kind of support that we are looking, these women are looking back, is those networks, is those mentors who can really bring the change in their lives. So thank you so much for sharing that wonderful experience with us. Also, now that you are engaged in Aspire for Her on a very, very daily basis in terms of getting women return to work, what are the 3 major issues that you face working with corporates in terms of now enabling these women to be part of the workforce? And how do you also, what challenges do you think they face in terms of their continuation in their jobs after they have returned back?
So after they have returned back or while they are still in the process. I talk about, how, see, we have a community of about more than 20,000 women who are actually looking at getting back into work. If I may say that a hiring process, if I may break it down into 3 stages. One is you're looking out for the talent, you're looking out for the return. The second is the onboarding process, and the third is when you've onboarded the woman. I'll also be able to, help with some real examples because we have been working and we have seen this. So the first thing is that today, most of the organizations, and I must say that Capgemini is really doing some wonderful work. I've seen a lot of our women from our community go into Capgemini and they're really happy. And what actually, I felt I've actually passed in the examination when I saw that they reached the Capgemini office with the laptop bag and the laptop which said Capgemini. So that was a very good feeling for us. Thank you so much. We really believe you're doing some good. Organizations are looking for women who are on a career break and vice versa. Women are also looking at making that comeback. But they don't know the process, how to go about it. Organizations definitely go to their career pages, you go on their website, they are promoting for women on a career break. And they're trying to reach out through internal referrals and whatever. But one thing that we find, what the woman is actually looking is at a relatable figure from the organization, which means a woman who has transitioned into that organization and made it possible. That's a story they relate to, because otherwise they feel that this is only about talking and nothing about doing. I'll share one of these instances. About 6 months back, we had an organization that reached out to us because they wanted to hire women on a career break. One of the leading tech giants, and I was very surprised that, they did not get women on a career break. Internally, I was happy, which meant that, our community of women are going to get jobs. The moment they put it on their website, they had more than 1,000 applicants for women on a break. Unfortunately, more than 800 were men who applied. That's a fact. The problem is that women try to match every skill set of theirs. And if they think that, they do not fit in that 1%, they do not go and apply, even by 1%. One skill set is something missing, they just stay back. And we've been trying our best that they should move ahead. But they also need to see some stories of women, which is kind of missing. The second, as I mentioned, is about your onboarding process. As we had Anita who mentioned, we also had some of the leaders talk about that, every top leadership in the organization is wanting more and more diversity. They want diverse views. They're looking for women on a career break. However, by the time it comes down and, the woman comes to the final stage with the hiring manager, we realize that all of them are not aligned to it. Again, as I mentioned, because we have worked with real people on real issues. So we had one woman of the community who wanted to be a part of our Amazon Sheeters cohort. And she couldn't make it. She tried all the way reaching out to people to make sure, whether she's got it or she's not got it. And because she's tried so hard, it came to my notice a couple of times. I said, let me go and check why is she part of the cohort or she's not a part of the cohort. Unfortunately, she did not have the scoring, which would have actually made her to be a part of the cohort. So I called her and I told her, I said, listen, I'm sorry to say, but you've not made it. And she just burst into tears. And there was nothing that was there to speak. And I told her, have a glass of water and let's meet on Zoom when you come to my school. So she had a bitter experience with one of the leading MNCs. She said the first and the second stage was all about technical interviews. When it was the final stage, the one question that the hiring manager actually asked her was about why did she go on a break? And she was literally grilled over there. And this is the problem with most of the returnees, which I see in the community also. The moment somebody goes and asks them about the break, they lose their confidence right there. No matter how much ever upskilling they have done, no matter whatever interview skills you've given them. But at that question, they just lose the confidence. And she lost the confidence. And the final, which is once you've onboarded. Now, what happens when you've been onboarded? All the organizations are definitely have a very beautiful carved out returnship journey. But in that returnship journey, you are expected to deliver from day one, not realizing that the past journey of theirs has been at a very different pace in a very different space. Now they are asked to maintain that pace. They are not able to do it. They are losing interest there. When they lose interest there, they start feeling guilty that I'm also neglecting my family and I'm also not able to cope up here. That's when it just breaks down. And women, again, leave these returnship programs. They sit back at home and the journey of low confidence again starts.
Yeah, no, these are very insightful reflections, and this is linking me back to Ray, what you have said, the relevance of now then looking at the unconscious or conscious biases that are, in the teams of the people who are sitting on the hiring table to see that how, what kind of questions they should be asking. But also just a thought that is it not possible to then not have for women, specifically when we are having our, advertisements to say that you don't need to match 100% of skills. Is it something that we can introduce in our recruitment processes to just enable women to not, look themselves with such a critical angle that am I matching all those 100% requirements? And that is something which we can discuss and see if this could be tweaked a little bit. Okay, and Ruchita, I know that we are sort of quite not doing good on time. So, but very quickly would like to ask you that what strategies do you think we can use to address some of the issues that you mentioned?
So I'll also talk about the same three issues and, the ways we can improve on that. Firstly, there are 3 M's in a woman's life, which leads to lack of 3 C's. The 3 M's being marriage, mobility, and maternity. And the lack of 3 skills is confidence, courage, and communication skills. And the one answer to it is community. That's where she derives her strength. That's where she finds women who inspire, motivate, and elevate. This is again a real story, and I'll try to be as short. We have Usha Kumari, who was part of our SheDes journey. She joined our community. She started with the AWS Restart Forward program. She had only 2.5 years of work experience and a 16 years of gap. Her husband developed Parkinson's, and she had no option but to actually come back and start her career again. The 3 months program took her 6 months because she has to manage with family. She had to manage with her husband, but she was really determined. When we had an opening with Amazon with AWS for women who are looking for coming back after a career break, we sent her CV. She did some mentorship sessions. We helped her with CV building. We helped her build her confidence, and she made it into AWS. Her story motivated the entire community of how she made it. She's given sessions to the community on the way you have to prepare yourself, the technical skills, the soft skills. And not just that, after she went back, the same organization who couldn't find women returnees, we opened applications to our community for a period of 3 weeks. 1,003 women returnees applied. That's the kind of motivation a relatable figure can give, which nothing else can. Here she is talking about her journey, where she faced the hurdles, who supported her, and how she found it. The second is the onboarded, when we talk about the onboarding process. Yes, as Ray mentioned, you definitely need a 360-degree training process, because right now what's happening is that you're thrown in a swimming pool and you're expected to swim. But I think it's not swimming what the women are looking at. They're still trying to stay afloat. And they're looking out for that float who's going to take them to that safe shore where they feel comfortable. And after that, that little sweet taste of success is what motivates them to go further. but they need a hand who can hold them, show them little direction, because believe me, there's a lot of hidden talent inside. The third is once they have onboarded. Yes, the returnship programs are very well designed, but they also need to take care of a lot of soft skills besides just technical skills. Because women are very emotional. They are leaving their family with whom they've been for so long. They need a gradual transition. It is about, it's about technical skills, it's about work-life balance, it's about building confidence, communication skills, to the extent that some women also told us, we've forgotten how to dress up and go to the office. We'd like to know some grooming skills. So there are lots of issues which are there. But yes, the success stories are also immense. And I must tell you that a couple of women who've come back from the career break, if they have been given the right guidance, they've got the right set of mentors. We have seen that they have made to the international coffee table books. They have made to some awards within the organization, and I see them post on LinkedIn. And that gives me such a sense of joy. And yes, there is a lot of talent, hidden talents. You just have to give them a chance. And I always say, if I can do it, so can you.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Ruchita. And what struck me at this point of time is all of us sitting here are trying to really move the needle on all those aspects that you said. So, so what a great start already that we have done. And I think we have many more steps to take, but we are in the right direction. Sushmita, I come to you now, and we heard from in the morning about your program, your Shakti program of 24/7 AI, and it has focus on also the returnees, specifically women returnees, but I think you also look at the women returnees from a very, very diverse background, from those backgrounds that are really difficult and those circumstances which are really create further hurdles for women to come back to the workforce. So could you please explain about some key features of your returnee program at 24/7 AI?
Sure. Thank you, Selena. I just want to first of all say once again that it's a huge honor for us to have all of you here today and to be hosting this first of the Action Dialogue Series. We started with this as an idea 2 years back, and after multiple conversation, I think it's a huge sense of fulfillment to be here today. I will talk about a different aspect of ensuring that women continue. That women continue on their career journeys. I think a lot of it has been touched upon by Ruchita was there, and to some extent by what Neena spoke in the morning, and also Anita when she spoke about the care burden. I think, Ruchita, your story and the 3 M's that you spoke about, which is marriage, maternity, and and mobility. And these 3 things we have seen through global studies. All of us know that these are probably the 3 factors because of which women fall off the career ladder. And our focus as an organization has been to try and ensure that that never happens to our women. So right from the time of marriage and maternity, especially the maternity journey, we start with something that we call the moms to be badge, exactly like this one. So new moms to be wear this when they're around in our facilities. And that ensures that everyone around them are sensitized to the fact that special care needs to be taken, whether it's in our lifts, whether it's in our cafeterias or anywhere in the facility, there is that sensitivity that starts developing. Then we ensure that through our policies and through sensitizing supervisors and managers, all support that is possible to be given to them. Because exactly as you mentioned, women go through a lot of fears. Will I be able to manage this journey? I'm going to have a new baby. I'm going to be torn between home and work. Is this something I can take on? So supervisors are sensitized to deal with them in a very supportive manner. Wherever possible, we provide flexi hours, we provide work from home facilities. There are many, many occasions where apart from the standard maternity leave, extension of leave is provided, sabbatical options are provided. Just day before yesterday, I think Sabha is somewhere here in the audience. We were hearing her inspire, there you are, Sabha. And she was sharing her inspiring journey where, you know, just before she, just as she got into maternity, she got a challenging assignment and a promotion. And she was torn with conflicts about whether she will be able to handle it or not. But her supervisor kept insisting that no, she should take extended leaves, support her child, and then come back when she's fully ready, and kept supporting her through those fears. And today she is a head of program for one of our big LOBs in the organization. So that's just one of many such examples. Many a times we hear that, you know, women's career progression is arrested because of maternity. They do not get their promotions on time. But we have many people in this audience. I know I have people in my own team who have been promoted just as soon as they've come back from maternity. And they've been given bigger tasks to handle. And that just keeps them going.
This is amazing. I mean, we know how this question of promotion is also a question which comes up very, very frequently when we look at women's career progression. And when it comes to women who have returned from their break, I think talking about this and creating an enabling environment for women to get promoted is something which is really, really credible. And I congratulate 24/7 AI for this. And I'm sure that, you know, there are many companies who are sitting out there who would be learning from these initiatives and taking them forward. Sushmita, if I may ask that, what kind of governance mechanisms have you put in place to facilitate these kind of processes in your organization?
So, of course, we have supporting policies in place. We have a lot of sensitization programs that we run, which our OD team runs, to make sure that, you know, everyone across levels are sensitive to this. Especially it depends a lot on supervisors and managers, because it's a one-to-one relationship. And it's important that every supervisor is sensitive to this. The other aspect of it is ensuring that the women themselves are ready for it. Because exactly as you said, there are a lot of self-limiting beliefs that exist within us. And women sometimes create their own challenges through their own thinking. And so we have modules. We have a module which is called Aspire, which includes how to overcome self-limiting beliefs. We have a flagship program called Womenable, which is to develop women as emerging leaders in the organization. So enabling them through skills, both during the journey, as well as once they come back, they have the opportunity to apply for these programs and skill themselves so that they can continue to grow. Another thing that we continuously try and do, exactly like I said, we had a conversation day before yesterday. We use our women leaders both internally as well as whenever we've had client visits, we've ensured that client leaders also share their journey. Like you said, Ruchita, you know, when you hear somebody else sharing their journey, all of us have gone through this. All of us have had children, all of us have had to overcome this and are still sitting here today and having this conversation. So when we take our turn to share how did we do it, it reinforces that courage and it helps them see a role model that they can aspire to follow. So I think those are some things that we are really focusing on to bring them back and ensure that they don't take that decision to follow the curve. And the other thing that Anita mentioned, that especially in COVID times, the care burden has been enormous. We have all seen it. We've seen a lot of women taking the decision to drop off. But that is the time that we brought in a lot of interventions, both in terms of mental wellness, as well as involving the families of the women in conversations to sensitize their partners, their family members as to how to support them through this journey so that they don't have to take that extreme decision.
Sushmita, if I may have a follow-up question, despite all these well-intentioned and well-meaning policies and interventions, uh, do you still face certain bottlenecks in terms of implementation of the programs? And if you could highlight one specific challenge that you think we need to address.
Yeah, so certainly, I think all of us who are on this journey face this challenge every day. I think as an organization at all levels, we are very sensitive. But having said that, somewhere I think collectively, we have to come together to make this a constant priority. Because amongst various other business priorities, sometimes we tend to lose sight of some of these. And that is a sensitization apart from the unconscious bias that we have to continuously reinforce so that, everybody makes it a priority in every conversation. Keep this top of mind and do not let those biases come into play that, okay, here's a woman, should I give her this assignment? Is she going to take a decision to drop off tomorrow? Instead, think, how can I support her and enable her to continue her journey of progression? So I think that's something that all of us have to work on. And I think Nina touched upon it in her opening conversation, where men are critical partners in this journey. And in our DEI program, one of the core themes is having men in the conversation. And it's heartening to say that in many of these dialogues that we've had in the past, we've had at least 50% of the crowd being men and asking a lot of questions about the role that they can play. So that itself is a first heartening step in the right direction.
Of course, I can see that because the Payan mentioned that he should have done more for the care work. So of course, the trainings are working, but also the leadership commitment, right? That how, it is really coming from the top and how it is critical, critically an important agenda like other business priorities. Thank you so much, Sushmita, for insights. Tanya, if I may move on to you, Natwest also has this Women Come Back program, and which is in implementation for almost last 5 years, right? So what have been your learnings from this program and how the program has evolved over time?
Yeah, well, to be precise, it's 6 years now that we have been running this program. So when we started, by like most other organizations, Women Come Back program was designed as a returnship program, which means it's a fully paid internship for 6 months and 3 months, sorry. And you go through training, you go through leadership, personal leadership programs, you get an on-the-job exposure, you work with a mentor on a project and get the experience that you need. Then you apply for a selection process into a full-time role. You get selected in that if you are successful. What we observed in the first couple of years is we were having 100% conversion of women who were coming as interns and were then getting into. And we stepped back along with talent acquisition team and said that maybe we need to do something differently. Maybe there is a barrier in our head that we have that they are not ready. And we need to make them go through this program to make them ready. Why don't we try and give them, the full-time roles at the very beginning? Do a rigorous, robust selection process, do a great competency-based interview, do the technical round which commensurate to the role requirement, and get them into the role. After they come to the role, we put them into the journey. So what has happened was initially hiring managers was honestly slightly nervous. Are you sure, will they be ready? They need a training program, they need handholding. And, the team who was leading this from the council, and Harshita is here and many others who have been part of it. We have covered from the talent acquisition, he heads talent acquisition. They all collaborated and said, we will make this happen. We will give the training that is required to them, but once they are hired as full-time employees. So what impact did it have? It changed the mindset of career break. We normalized career break for at least people within our organization. Instead of, so when they next time when they look at the CV, we are hoping that organically they will stop counting how many number of years of gap between one role to the other. So if we have been able to do that for all 15,500 employees and some 3,000 odd people managers, that you have normalized career break for women and then hire them for the talent, because we are talking about highly qualified people. We are not doing any social service for anybody, right? They just get the job. I think we have done our job in that way. And we also removed criteria like 6 months break to 1 year break. A break is a break. And you come back through the Women Come Back program and then get.
Thank you, Tanya. I think you have given all of us a very powerful phrase, which is normalization of career break. I think each one of us here should imbibe this in ourselves and really a way forward in terms of looking this as not an effort that needs, that requires something special to do. It should be a part of your routine hiring process, and it should not be something which need, of course, I mean, current day, we need a lot of efforts for this because of the biases and because of the multiple challenges that women face. But ideally, it should not be something which, where conscious efforts are put in. But if I may move on into this entire aspect of biases that each one of us talked about, what are some of the steps that Natwest has taken to, to address this?
Sure. And Suhaila, if I can take a step back, where did this bias come from? I think the employment world and all of us who have not taken a break and continued to work actually created those biases. Women who have taken break, like Ruchita, if I can, take your example, they are nervous to enter into the employment world because we have told them knowingly, unknowingly, through different interactions, that you are not ready. You have lost out on time. Your CV has a break. And therefore, the women have started thinking, oh, if I'm coming back, I may have to compromise on my salary. I may have to compromise on my grade. I may have to compromise on a designation. Tell me, as an employer, if you're hiring an employee at a compromise stage, how will the potential of that individual thrive within the organization? It cannot happen. So therefore, we need to think about the fact that, of course, we need to normalize career break, but also need to find ways in which we can remove those biases by ensuring that if you are ready, we are ready to hire you. Have a good selection process and do that. And NatWest India, what we have done is we also have inclusive interview ambassadors. So we do understand well-intending hiring managers are wanting to do the right recruitment, but sometimes they falter. We are all humans. And therefore, as conscious keeper, we have inclusive interview ambassadors, irrespective of gender, who are sitting in the panel and also going through the selection process. Chances are we will get at least the right outcome to that process. So just wanted to highlight that. And Suhaila, if I may just say, in terms of the bias bit, we better get rid of this bias, because it is just not charity or a nice thing to do, because it makes economic sense. Today, I think Anita was mentioning women labor workforce participation in India in 2022 is 26%. In 2005, we were at 36%. We have deteriorated. Whereas education qualification wise, women have been at the top. Where did this missing population go? Or because they have taken a career? And IMF is saying that we, as a country, we will be 27% richer, because it is directly linked to the GDP, but we have not done anything about it. Between then and now, which is 2005 and 2022, our economy has doubled. Our, working age of our female population have at least gone up by a quarter, but we are at 26%, workforce. And that is actually the bottommost, if I compare it with, developing economies. India in that segment is the bottommost. Our women, and workforce, and we are even worse than our neighboring countries, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, when it comes to women workforce participation. So we better get rid of this bias in a way. So I'm very strongly passionate about.
No, you have, you're absolutely right. I mean, apart from availability of jobs or the skills or talents, these are not the factors that are under play. There are many other factors which are under play when it comes to women's access to jobs and opportunities and their participation in the labor force. Now, you talked about, again, touched on a very important point of this compromised stage for women, right? We know gender pay gap exists, and it exists more for women. And now that when it, and we look at women who are returning to work, I'm sure that this is more profound for them. What has been some of your strategies to address this pay gap for women who are returning back to work?
Yeah, so for on this talent acquisition team has been our conscience keeper. So hiring managers very clearly know that you cannot hire a women returner by giving a token increment. You just can't. And like most organizations, I'm sure we have a grade commensurate to a role demand. And that grade also has a minimum benchmark in terms of the salary. So we ensure, irrespective of the percentage, irrespective of the number of years of gap that the women have been, that when you are hired for a role, you are getting a pay rise commensurate to what the peers get. So we bring them to the minimum, at least, if not more, depending on where they are, to that particular grade and salary. And of course, year on year, they get the increment basis their performance, and they've done extremely well. In fact, the best of the retention and the commitment comes from women returners. We quite often, we are talking about great resignation, we have forgotten the demography of population who can give us the best retention. So that's where we are.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I move on to Anuradha. And Anuradha, if you wish to respond to the curse of Ruchita, please feel free to. But what are some of the key features of HCL's returnship program?
Thanks, Sohela, and thanks 24/7 for having us over here for this panel discussion, hosting the very first one in the series. Looking forward to many more. In terms of our thought process that we have from our returnship perspective, we are very clear, we are beyond those times where we have to create a business justification case for why this concept is important. We are beyond that now. I mean, who would be able to argue against the fact that the returnship population that is there, they have very rich industry experience. They've taken a break, yes, 2 years, 4 years, right, or maybe more, but they did work at one point of time. Nobody can take away that rich industry experience that each one of them have. And again, be it men or women, because the career break could be because of elderly care, could be because of maternity, could be because of mobility, could be because of any reason. So there is a rich industry experience that each one of them are carrying. And if I'm the person who's recruiting this returnee for my team, I know how much of time it takes to bring another fresher up the learning curve, right? It might be organization versus organization, the culture might be different, but still nobody can take away the richness of the experience. The second thing is that the returnees, each one of the returnees want to put their best foot forward. If they're wanting to put their best foot forward, why will I not take 2 steps forward to help them contribute to the organization's goals? So they're coming with the mindset. And again, as a manager in the organization, I know that, it takes time to probably convince people to put their best foot forward, to contribute to their highest possible passion levels, how much of engagement surveys we do, how much of passion levels we manage. Now, these are returnees who are coming with great enthusiasm, wanting to contribute their best. So they're wanting to put their best foot forward. Thirdly, they are coming with a very mature perspective. They have gone through life experiences, which could be based on any life event. It could be because of elderly care. It could be because of what one has gone through, a pandemic like COVID. It could be because of raising a toddler, or maybe adopting a child or going through an IVF process. There could be many such life events, and there are experiences that one has gained in each one of these events, and that is what has raised their maturity level. As an organization, why wouldn't I want to leverage the increased maturity level? So we are far away from the creating a business case for returnees. There are you put me in front of a business leader, and I can surely convey each one of these very strongly to the business leaders, or be it the tag teams or recruitment teams. Yes, what I have to change as an organization is the mindset, not everybody comes with this kind of a mindset. Yes, I have to work on the mindset, and I'll talk more about that as to how to be more inclusive. With these three things in mind, being very clear as an organization that these are aspects, these are great positives that the returnee population is bringing to the desk, and returnship programs are not new. They've been there for years together, probably 20 years they have been there in various forms. What has happened now is that a pandemic has brought this to the forefront. There are people who have, a lot of people who have taken breaks, and there are a lot of people who want to come back after the break. So there are, as per a study that I read recently, 2 out of 3 women are actually wanting to come back. So organizations, get ready. There is a very large population waiting to, come back, because the daycare centers, everything is falling into place. Things are falling into place, be it for elderly care, be it for any other life event that they were taking career breaks for. So there's a huge population that is going to be knocking at your door saying, I'm interested. And they will be asking you reverse questions in terms of, why should I join your organization? There's a huge population which is coming back. And you can see so many of us eyeing for that population. There are, yeah, exactly. So, and Anita talked about how many signatories, we have. So all those organizations are eyeing for this population. In terms of the returnship program that we have at HCL, well, it won't be any different from what all the others have talked about, so I won't get into the depth of it. Of course, there are cohorts made basis skill sets that are required. So it could be a specific skill set where there are large number of open positions, and basis that there would be an initial selection that could be done, filtration done. People who clear that selection will be getting into some pre-hire training, which could be technical skills as well as functional, domain, behavioral and leadership skills. Once they clear that, then they would be moving on to the actual on-the-job trainings. There are each time that we look at the data, and we're talking a lot about digital analytics and MIS and insights that we are drawing from that. Look at your data in your organization. What's the funnel looking like? Ray talked about a pyramid. I'm talking about a funnel, and saying how many actually have applied, how many cleared the first round of interviews, how many didn't. The normal funnel that we look at from a recruitment perspective, but please look at it from a returnee perspective. There are a lot of learnings for you as an organization as to, why women are not clearing those rounds, and those inputs go back to organizations like Ruchita to help, prepare women better. And even for us as organizations, and as to what we need to change in the learning framework to prepare them better. There are, leadership connects, there are mentoring discussions which happen. all that is part of our returnship program, Sohela. So returnship programs per se might not be different organization to organization, but every day there is a learning that is there, both for the women employee who is applying for these programs. I think you as a women, employee need to be clear as to what is the value you're also bringing to the organization, and be confident about it. When you're reading the job profile, when you're seeing what the organization requires, create your elevator pitch in your mind as to, I know I can do this. Yes, there is a refresh on my skills which is required. I'm willing to work on that refresh, but I'm pretty confident that I am the right one for this role. Be confident to the extent where you are on that side of the table, where you're asking questions as to why should I be picking up the returnship program in your organization.
Thank you. And you have, Anuradha, again given another powerful idea today, which is to look at women returnees as an assets and not as liabilities, and as somebody who has to contribute greatly to your organization, and it's not other way around. And also, thank you for putting it so beautifully that you also have to take 2 steps forward, which you are doing in HCL, which is amazing, and congratulations. Now, I know that you have already touched upon this aspect in your remarks right now, that there are certain things which you still need to do to make this happen. What do you think would be one, if I can just ask one step that you think is still needed to be taken to move the needle on this? What would it be?
Sure. So I talked about, I ended the previous one saying that it's important for every organization to position themselves as to why us, why should you be joining us? So we work a lot on creating our value proposition, employee value propositions, our talent brand, etc. I think what is important is to focus on creating a talent inclusive brand, saying that we have this mindset of inclusion, and we are inclusive. From today we are talking about more from a women perspective and a returnship perspective, but inclusive is the overarching theme. And since we're talking about a mindset, there are there's a lot of work actually to be done over there, and there are 3 A's that we work on in terms of inclusion mindset, which is first is awareness, second is authenticity, and third is accountability. From an inclusive mindset, we are running programs called Inclusion at Scale and Inclusion Lab, which we have many a times discussed with you also. So there are programs that we are running, but today if I restrict the frame to from a recruitment mindset and a returnship mindset perspective. When I'm talking about awareness, in this case, of course, the awareness has to be created with all the stakeholders. I talked about the women themselves who are applying. They should be aware as to why they're wanting to apply for that position. Be confident of why, what value they can add to the organization. The recruiter's mindset is often something that is talked about, and we heard from many organizations the kind of work that is happening on sensitizing the recruiters, because they are the front-facing recruiters, and these are not just the talent acquisition teams. These are delivery leaders who are interacting at one or the other stage with the candidates. There is, again, a lot of insight that one can draw in terms of if there is a bias. We talked about bias. Yes, that's important. And there's training that we'll do to overcome that bias, sensitize the recruiters on unconscious bias. But are you seeing some kind of trend and pattern in the rejections or in the selections from a recruiter to recruiter perspective? And that's where you can actually put your finger to it, saying that, yes, hey, this is where the issue is. I have done a training, I've made it mandatory, I've ensured all my recruiters go through this training, but am I seeing a trend or a pattern in terms of the selections or rejections? Again, as I'm saying, I've always been saying reverse learning, mirror, mirror, see for yourself. What is it? What is the key takeaway for you? So do that from a training mindset for the recruiters. Do that for, of course, the delivery leaders too. From an awareness perspective, there is very structured learning interventions that need to be done. But from move away from after the learning, keep a track after 6 months, after 9 months, 12 months in terms of application of the learning. Are people going back and applying whatever they have learned in these programs? Am I seeing inclusive behaviors being exhibited? Can I make it very crisp saying, the feedback that we're getting is that, there are lesser inclusive behaviors which are being exhibited, do more of this, do less of this. Can I bring it to that specific point? So we've identified great e-learning nuggets, webinars, etc. For, it's not just for recruiters, but it's for all employees across the organization. From the awareness part of it, then comes the authenticity part of it. It has to be intentional. I should be, if I'm not actively including, I am accidentally excluding, is the key tagline which we work on. If you need to be actively including every day, every conversation that you're having, otherwise you're accidentally excluding. And then we do a lot of reflective journals on that with the employees across the organization. This is part of our engagement surveys. This is part of our 360-degree feedback, and of course the feedback from the candidates. The third aspect which is important is the accountability, and which Anita also talked about, setting the tone at the top, ensuring that the leaders set the tone at the top for inclusive behaviors to be exhibited. We're doing a lot in terms of, over the years, there were years where these were KPIs, there were years where these were bonusable KPIs, there were years when we asked them to compare their diversity ratios, be it gender, PWD, with the client's gender diversity, PWD ratios. How does our charter look in comparison to the client's charter? So there's got to be accountability at all levels. Yes, we talked about promotions. We have something unique called a why not promotion list. So each leader is, should be able to share as to why he or she feels that, these women leaders who have been top rated in the last 2-3 appraisals, why are they not promoting these women leaders? The returnship, from a returnship perspective, there's got a lot that needs to be done from a proactive retention perspective. Doing these stay interviews, doing these insightful conversations, so that you are able to, it's actually both ways. I'm not saying that please try, you have to retain everybody. We don't need to make people guilty by saying that, oh, she didn't take a break. I've had conversations, professionally, even personally, where there are, family members or neighbors or people in my team who are, thinking 10 times, should I actually take a break? Should I actually take a break? And, you nudge them and say, hey, you'll feel guilty about it 5 years down the line. If you need to take a break now, do take a break. Don't feel guilty about it. So conversations have to be both ways that the managers have to do. One is from a retention perspective, and the other is from a guilt-free perspective, because that's what all work-life balance is all about. This is all what mental wellness is all about. So let's be fair from both aspects. Whether this individual needs to take a break, encourage that person to take a break, or a person who's wanting to come back from a break. How do you encourage people to come back?
Great. You have really given us some very important practical steps and strategies. Thank you so much, Anuradha, for that. Where do you see the program in next 5 years?
So from the next 5 years perspective, as I said, 2 out of 3 women are wanting to come back from work. So there is a huge, don't see it from just increasing. I see many organizations, many leaders looking at returnship as a tool for increasing gender diversity numbers. Don't look at it from just that perspective. There are, in the next year or two, you will see a huge talent pool of both men and women wanting to come back to work. How will you address that talent pool? Also, Manpower Group, a study says that, if you look at the millennials today, the research said that 57% of males intend to take a career break in their journey, and 74% women intend to take a career break in their journeys. The millennials are very different from our generations, the previous generations, right? We would think 10 times and say, oh, should I really take a break? They're already planning to take a break. They're very clear. 5 years down the line, I am surely going to be taking a break. These are some other goals which I need to achieve. These are goals which I've set for myself. So, don't make it as a topic of discussion. This has to be ways of working. You as an organization have got to see that how does this go as normal work, flows. If a person is intending to take a break, how do you ensure that the flexibility, policies, practices that you have in the organization, or conversations that you have with the organization. Don't be shocked when a millennial knocks at your door and says, I intend to take a 2-year break and I'll come back after 2 years. We talked about sabbaticals as big things. And today also, our generations would say, oh, sabbatical, yeah, big decision this individual has taken to take a sabbatical. You will see a very different world in the next 5 years.
Thank you. Thank you for those insights and getting us started to think on those lines. I think it's very important. And also what struck me is that how you are describing it to be, should be something which is business as usual, and shouldn't be something which again has to have thought through. And thank you so much, Anuradha. I move on to you, Sanjana. Thank you. You have been listening to all of us very patiently. And I know that very important questions coming to your table, which is really around, some of the pipeline issues that we face. So all of us know, and Anuradha just mentioned that how, we are looking at increasing women and men also taking the career break and returning back to work. But right now, there are also challenges when we speak to a lot of corporates to find out. So they say that we don't know where these women are and how to get these women on board. So how do you deal those pipeline issues within your program at Zensar?
Thank you, Suhela, first of all, for the opportunity, and all of us to have made it. For 2 years, we were discussing about it. It's only the time when we called it Action Dialogue Series that I became more optimistic that we'll make it finally. So kudos to all of us for being here then. You're very right. If you talk to the hiring managers, and a lot of us who play that role as a hiring manager would, agree with me. They say it really doesn't matter whether you get a man or a woman. You get the talent that meets my role requirement, get the talent as fast as you can. So nobody is willing to wait really. And the kind of talent that we are talking about is something that probably takes a little longer to search because we've not established those talent sources in the industry. There are very few, like Aspire for Here. We worked with another partner for second innings, again, based out of Bangalore, who have tapped that talent and have also invested in, giving them the skilling options. In fact, Bangalore being a land of opportunities, I got to know there are a lot of starters who are, offering internships for women who want to come back from career break, which is a good step in between, while the large corporates like us are willing to onboard them as equivalent to any other lateral that you would have hired, right? That is one of the aspects. The other is a recent survey by Census Wide, which was for about 22,000 workers worldwide, done on behalf of LinkedIn. 2,000 people who responded and about 400 managers. They say they're looking at talent that has career break mentioned on their resume.
right? They're saying, first of all, the stigma that we all had about the career breaks is something that's going away, going for good. So they're no longer, it's called as a taboo. And the fact that somebody is talking about their career break, no matter what the reason is, whether it's a man or a woman, which means they have decided to take a pause, reflect, and then restart. There are a lot of people who are now taking a break just for a month or so between two jobs. And with the great resignation that happened, a lot of them who switched also got this opportunity. They're doing so because they want to pause, reflect, and restart. I think that's the wave that we are riding on now. And hence, I don't see a pipeline issue at all. I think it's about working with partners like her and many others who've already addressing this gap for the last 5 years or so, getting the talent to our notice, and we are able to onboard them. However, the issue remains in the organizations, which you spoke about, the unconscious bias on mindset. I think when it comes to leadership, fortunately, at least we've been always supportive in getting their support all the time. But when it comes to hitting the ground, there are certain aspects of mindsets that need to be addressed. And that comes through policies. So like we have a policy which says if a woman is going on maternity or coming back from maternity, you can't give them a underperformer rating, just because you believe they are of no use to you now, or you can't stop their promotion. I mean, I was privileged to get a promotion when I returned from a career break from my maternity. And then I also had to take a break because I didn't have the right project I wanted to onboard. But the organization offered me a short-term assignment, which still gave me some bucks. It doesn't matter, but I had that connection established. So programs that will help me stay connected so that I really don't have to take a break. A sabbatical which ensures that I'm still connected to an organization on a paper, but I'm actually away on a break for some time, are some of the things that will ensure our pipeline issues, which eventually would mean that people would not have to take a break. And the third aspect of pipeline is various stages that women are coming back. Some would come back when they have completed a year after a maternity. I'm taking maternity, which is a major reason why women take a career break. That's another example. The other is when they have become toddlers, started going to nurseries and schools. The next would be that they would have probably taken care of the condition at home, which is after 5 years. Now just imagine a lady who is coming back, who has a toddler, gets on an assignment, has to travel now, but the organization doesn't have a policy where they can allow a child traveling with a mother. Those are some of the policies that I've realized only recently that are going to address the issues and the taboo that we will have with regards to, especially getting women back from maternity. A lot of them, about 64% of the women who responded to this survey, have taken break for medical conditions in the family, as well as to address their mental health. I think that the last one is something that's highly ignored, but came to surface post the pandemic. And I'm glad that now there are, governance mechanisms to even address and systemic policies that are put in by the organizations to say, we want to support women to take them ahead in their journey. I also got to know that NHRDN network has launched a club, which is to get 1 million women leaders back to workforce with the help of startups who are wanting to support in that entire phase, from not just women going on maternity, but right from thinking of conception to your retirement. And we're talking about working women. I think such community groups, like you explained the purpose of having a community and the strength of it. I think such community groups are going to address the pipeline issues. And I'm very, very happy and looking forward to all of that to happen. So all of us don't think of it as an issue to address, but a economic sense that you mentioned.
Great, and I'm thankful to you, Sanjana, for bringing in this focus on the mental health aspect of women, and which is generally ignored, and now after COVID has really surfaced up, and rightly so. Thank you for that, and you're also implementing Zensar's program for quite some time now. Despite all of the great efforts, what is one major challenge that you think you are facing in terms of implementing this program?
So I wouldn't say one major, all of us, and I'm not going to be shy of saying there are several challenges, because you may have trained a batch of people through an unconscious bias program, but given that there's so much attrition happening, especially in the IT industry, you have a new batch now, who yet needs to be trained. So the sustained efforts to ensure the mindset is getting addressed, going to every part of the talent acquisition team, and I'm not blaming the talent acquisition team for whatsoever, but they are at the forefront of attracting talent, telling them how not to make those mistakes again and again by supporting them and telling them, what do you mean when you're doing this? So it's no longer why we're doing it, it's about how, telling them how to do it. So while the leadership team always supports, when it comes to hitting the ground is where there are a lot of efforts that need to be taken. And I think that begins with identifying who are the people who will be part of the whole line to make this change happen. So there are challenges. I think majority, again, every time you talk to the talent acquisition team, say, we don't know where this talent is coming from. We don't know the sources. Hiring manager says, you give me anyone, I'm willing to talk as long as the skill requirement is met. And that's about it. I think it's no longer a challenge. The lack of confidence issue that you spoke about, yes, I agree. But I think with so much that's happening in the industry now, trying to focus on women coming from career breaks and even men for that matter, I'm sure we've gathered that confidence and it will just rub on each other. Yes, but there are hard-hitting questions that are asked in the interview. If you put that in your policy, say not to ask these questions because you're now not looking at why somebody took a career break, right? I think that will address the lack of confidence issue that otherwise women would have suffered from.
Great. Other set of practical steps. Sanjana, we touched upon this during our conversation earlier as well, that until and unless there is a commitment from the topmost level, DE&I is still not a priority for most of the organizations. And so what, according to you, are some of the strategies that you have been undertaken or everybody should take to get that buy-in of the top management?
Okay, no secret here, but I think the way we started in 2018, when we formed this as a center of excellence, we said it cannot be one person who will make that change happen. It cannot be only one woman leader at the top who's going to make that happen, right? Or it cannot be the CEO always. So how do we then get together and say this is a voice of the organization? And we decided to have a global diversity and inclusion council. Each year it goes through a nomination process. People who are passionate like us, who want to come forward and volunteer over and about their jobs are invited. No pressure. These are projects that you say, I want to commit and I want to give time. Only then you onboard onto those projects. And all these initiatives have become successful through those council. Also, it's a good platform to say, here is a new idea. What do you think about it? And that council, being a diverse representation of your organization, is quickly able to tell you whether it will work or not. I think the other good thing that we do in Zensar is every new initiative, whether it's a DEI or otherwise, is implemented through a pilot. Do it at a small scale, see its success, learn from whatever has happened, and then you implement full-fledged. And to make a pilot successful, you have to identify allies. And I have a couple of them sitting here already who've come from Zensar. Those allies are the ones who have already bought into your idea and are willing to help you make that big. Of course, recognition for the allies and a lot of other things that need to keep them motivated, I'm not talking about it. I'm sure that's been taken care of. But don't do it just because they did one project. If we say that whosoever comes forward as an ally, implements a project, especially on the D&I front, there is a separate category of awards that we have in the organization. And that is done every quarter. So while there's an annual award as well, I think that has helped especially me to run this COE, to be successful, and also, a lot of members from the D&I Council who've been giving these ideas. Also, they call out the bias that we ourselves would have within the group, right? We are also learning. So they do call out and point, which helps you to do better in your job.
Thank you. I think one of the common themes that have been running since we started this conversation is the relevance of allies, the relevance of role models, the relevance of communities for women to be able to get that support that is required. Now, as we come to the close to this panel, I would like to thank each one of you here for the wonderful work and congratulate each one of you for the wonderful work that you are doing in your organizations. This has been really the motivation to come together for this Action Dialogue Series, because I believed when we interacted, as UN, when we interact with the web signatories one-on-one, we really get to know a lot of work that is going on in this area. And we thought that this has to come out, and this has to come out in a way that provides a way for others also to be able to learn from that and to be able to get those learnings into their own organizations and start implementation. So that was the idea behind this Action Dialogue Series, and the topic that we chose unanimously was this one, which is enabling women return to the workforce after the career break. But the idea of this Action Dialogue Series is really to take the conversations forward, having more such dialogues on the topics that are relevant, but let it come out from the practitioners themselves who have, had their hands dirty into this and really trying to make that change. So I would like to thank and congratulate all of you once again, and would like to open the floor for very brief question answers. I'm sorry that we are running out of time, but still, if anybody has a pressing question here, would love to have it over to us.
So I'm Gracie. I head the HR team at Kinara Capital. I was more curious to hear from you all about the diversity, equality, and inclusion, right? When I'm planning many of the other things to implement in the company, I would like to hear any specific women policies that you have introduced in the company.
Are you referring to any particular aspect? Because there are many policies that. The one thing that probably we are really proud of and has worked is no discrimination when it comes to your performance cycle. A lot of times we don't see enough women at a leadership level because it is not consciously thought about that a woman, even if she is completely ready, can take a leadership position. And that systematically to be addressed has to be in a form of policy. So one, like I said, if a woman is coming back or returning from a maternity break, you're not discriminating or you're not, holding back the promotion or a performance rating to her. There are times when you would still have a underperformance rating given to a woman, but that has to be supported by a historic data. So those checks and balances put in place by the talent management team is one of the policy. The other is when you're doing any kind of development program, whether it's a top talent or a critical talent or a leadership development program, you have to ensure that the whole inclusion aspect is taken care of, which means if there were 50 people to be identified, how many of them are women, or do you have a good balance? If not, why? Like you mentioned, that you look at whys of why not. You have to ask those questions. Unless until you are satisfied as a talent management owner or a L&D owner, you don't move forward. These things done consciously over time will automatically take care of the culture. I think this was converted in a policy in our organization, which has helped us beautifully.
Thank you so much.
I thought I'll just share. We talked about mental health of women and the fact that it is rising. Maybe we don't realize the amount of domestic violence that still exists. I'm sure UN Women will have better figures and research on that. So in Natwest Group globally and also in India, we have a safe leave policy. It's not only for women, it's for all gender. Anybody can apply for a safe leave policy up to 21 days. And it also doesn't have a cap with the permission from your manager, because then individuals need to go for court proceedings or find an alternate relocation, if they are moving out of the house, etc. So that I think is very unique in this demography. I think more or less the other policies will be same. The other thing is a lot of times we can do justice to women by doing a different kind of policy, which is not targeted to them, which is a parent leave policy. So, which is the paternity leave is actually beneficial for the women, not maybe in the same organization, unless there is a couple working in the same organization. But if you bring about policies which is impacting the other genders, it may have a positive impact on women, because then you're normalizing caring responsibility. So those are some of the things that I would.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I just wanted to add a couple of other things, which I'm sure many others are doing as well. But we have something called a skill enhancement leave. So if you want to take, again, it's gender neutral, anyone can take it, but it's equal opportunity for, if you want to take, to certify yourself on a certain program, you can do that. That helps women develop. Another very unique thing which we have is called gift of time, again, gender neutral. But if you are going through illness of a certain kind, and I know I've been a beneficiary of that, your colleagues can decide to pool in their leaves to help you overcome that situation, so that you don't take a beating on your salary, on your pay, on leave cuts, and so on. So these enable women and everyone in the company to go forward with and overcome some of these challenges.
Yeah, just a quick point, right? A slightly different one from what we've heard already. One of the things that we've realized is that, particularly when it comes to technical learning, okay, and upskilling, it's very important to go back again to the role modeling behavior, okay? So it's not a policy per se, but for example, the architect stream, very rarely, first of all, to get into the architect stream becomes difficult because you need to be, you need to pass that many exams, etc. But the moment you have a role model there, how do you make sure that you are advertising that much more consciously? Okay, it's not a policy again, but that makes a huge difference. So today, for example, in Capgemini, we have a, level 3 is the highest architect. In my unit, we have 3 women among the 4 who are certified level 3. 3 are women. How do I make sure that as a, it becomes a practice for all of us, leaders, HR teams, etc., to talk about that and get more enrollments, okay? So it's not necessarily a policy per se, but that definitely helps. And another one that is helping is sponsorship of the top leadership. When I'm talking about globally, the top leadership sponsorship for women, of course, you can't do too many, you can do few, but that can be really empowering for these individuals. And then you're talking about mentoring of them, right? So you're talking about CEOs of a country mentoring women who are, who can, of course, make a huge impact on the downstream, system.
Right.
So stuff like this becomes important, of course, and on top of all the, policies that we, all of us spoke about here, which becomes very, very important as well.
Thank you so much.
Just don't focus only on policies. My suggestion is look at programs and frameworks also, like the role model part, which she talked about, is very important, because a particular role like a solution architect, there might not be too many women leaders over there. So if you run an upskilling program for them and they see role models over there, that's surely going to help you. We talked about clients coming and having motivating sessions, talking about their career journeys. I talked about stay interviews. Stay interviews actually ebbed from something called upward conversations, encouraging women to go and have conversations with their managers or skip level managers. So what is happening is that whatever inhibitions you have, you're preparing the women leader to go and have those skip level conversations. The inhibitions are not only with the women, the inhibitions is also with the leader, saying, why is she blocking my calendar and what does she want to discuss with me? So creating a comfort and safe zone for that leader also, that, this is what could be expected and this is how you should be handling these upward conversations. At the end of it, policies, of course, will help. I think conversations, more and more conversations within the organization, be it with role models, be it outside the organization. If I am a returning, I want to make make a career returnship work for me, but I'm not feeling very confident. The people that I should reach out to should be probably my classmates who are doing very well, right? They will motivate me more than anybody else, more than my own, family, my own parents, probably my classmates would do that for me, right? One conversation with them and I'll be all motivated, yeah, and ready to go. So I think conversations, encouraging more and more conversations, be it with leaders, be it in the form of speed mentoring, be it in the form of role models, quite a bit of things get sorted out with just conversations.
Agree, completely agree on that. Thank you so much.
Helps me to think that apart from the
Well, thanks a lot. I understand that there are a lot of questions around. To me, it was indeed a thrilling conversation. I was just patiently listening to them. Thank you, everyone, all the panelists, and Sohail, of course. We heard some inspiring stories, some wonderful and honest policies and intent. I think what stood out for me was a unalloyed intent towards bringing women to workforce, which I can see very passionately everyone, all the panelists could express. And I hope that this will just be a beginning. So in continuation to all of that, we have a very interesting document that's about the best practices of organizations. We will send a copy of that to yourselves as well. I'll just request them to just scroll that up for the audience here. This is right from the 24/7 Shakti to Aspire for Hers, the 5-point mindset has changed model of employment, entrepreneurship, and education. The HCL Technologies returnship program, Zensar's and Live On, the DNA initiative towards bringing women return to work, and the captivate shows of Capgemini, and that's what you see on the screen. We will send a copy of that to yourself now. You can see around our audience gathering here is something that I'm going to call it as a very wonderful, collaborative, and ambitious intent by our participating organizations towards enabling women to return to workforce. So I'm going to request our colleagues to just bring this particular intent document to come forward, and request the panelists to sign. I'm going to read them for all of us. This is just a beginning to enable women to return to workforce, and I request respective panelists to come one by one. Markers, if all of you can come forward and sign this collaborative intent. And that says, we commit to bringing 500 women back to work by 2023, mentoring additional 500 women to strengthen their employability skills, onboarding 10 additional women empowerment principle signatories to the WEPs Action Dialogue Series for Scale Up. And all of that we will achieve by organizing an annual job fair for women returnees, expanding internal back to work interventions amongst the WEPs signatories, mobilizing senior leaders as mentors amongst the WEPs signatories, collaborating with WEPs signatories and relevant organizations such as Aspire for Her to develop programs to facilitate women's returning to workforce, and measuring and reporting impact. So very, very nice and wonderful collaborative intent, and this is just the beginning in that wonderful journey. I also request our delegates present here, we can also come forward and sign the board right there towards your left. You can please come forward. There are hopefully enough markers and pens available. As we do a quick photo op with all our very esteemed panelists. Just making sure that we spoke about a lot of measurement. I think this is one of those humble intent. You can take your seats. I'm just requesting one of our leaders at 24/7. It was a real privilege and an honor to have hosted all of you, and so much that we will look forward to in partnership with the UN Women. I request Jyotsna. Jyotsna is our Vice President Marketing and Communications India, to come forward and please hand over a small memento, like a small gift from our side as a gesture of appreciation for your intent to come over. It was indeed a dream for so many of us to have thought through for so much time. We cooked and made it happen. So congratulations to all our participating organizations. Yeah, I would request Harini to also come over and give us the vote of thanks. Meanwhile, as she ends up, I'm requesting all our leaders to also come forward for a group photo op with our distinguished set of panelists. So requesting Kartar, VN, Sarada, they are all our vice presidents for respective functions and support programs.
And also leaders of the participating organizations who are here today. If we can all take a group photograph together.
So I'm requesting the entire set of delegates to come forward.
All the delegates can come forward and we take a picture together.
This is a huge group. We've heard a term called community. I think that's, this is the community in the building, so it's a wonderful sight. I know it's a, I hope the frame fits us all. But please come forward. It's a memorable day and an event in all our lives to ensure that we are committed to enabling women to return to the workforce like never before. So, thanks a lot, and we're just about in between. Give us just 2 more minutes, please, for the vote of thanks, and then we will, as one community, proceed for lunch. But before that, Jyotsna, so while we are all meeting together, networking, I'm going to call. So while you all meet with each other, network, which has a huge power, I'm requesting Harini, our DEI lead, India, to also extend her vote of thanks before we proceed for lunch.
Thank you, Divine. I know all of us are excited, hungry, and we just want to go and have a break. So I'll just make this really quick. Sheryl Sandberg, in her book Lean In, mentions that it's important for women to support and lean in to the strong community which lives each other. And that's exactly what we can see right here live, right? And it also adds that men are our best supporters and the strongest allies, like how Nina's mentioned earlier. On behalf of 247.ai, I thank the fraternity of women empowerment here. I thank all the panel speakers
who are still engaging in dialogues. Of course, interesting topic. I thank all our esteemed delegates for making in this weather and in Bangalore traffic. Thank you so much. I thank all our leadership for walking the talk on our diversity and equity and inclusion principles. I thank all the virtual attendees who are on our Zoom, Facebook Live watching this today. And thank you, Dipayan, for being a great host. An event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling weeks ago. It required exhaustive planning while we were all racing against time. We are fortunate we had great teams who supported us, our internal colleagues, our D&I volunteers from 24/7.ai, supporting teams from Falcon and Prime Events, and of course, UN Women and team. Thank you all once again. We will now break for a quick lunch. I know now it's silence, everybody wants lunch. And followed by a facility tour that we have organized for our guests. So post-lunch, those of you who would love to join us, we would be happy to host you once again. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.